Hey everyone, and welcome! So, if you've ever felt like your day-to-day life is just, well, spinning a little out of control, you are in exactly the right place. In today's explainer, we have one main goal, and that is to completely conquer daily overwhelm. How? By mastering your personal world using some incredibly specific, actionable life hacks. We're pulling these straight from our sources, and they cover literally everything, from how middle schoolers handle homework to the fundamental building blocks of adult relationships. It's all connected, and we're going to break the whole shebang down for you right now.
All right, here's our quick roadmap for today. First up, we're taming overwhelming tasks. Second, organizing your study space. And third, mastering active listening. Let's dive right in.
Let me ask you something. Do you ever just freeze up when you're staring down a giant, looming project? Or maybe you sit down at a totally messy desk and boom, your focus is just gone. What about a difficult conversation that you literally keep putting off week after week? These are super common pain points, right? Procrastination, physical chaos, relationship friction. Well, our source material tackles these exact issues head on. Whether it's schoolwork or just managing your life, that heavy feeling of overwhelm is exactly the same. But the good news? The solutions are actually incredibly simple once you see them.
So Section 1, Taming Overwhelming Tasks. Breaking down those big projects. The text introduces this awesome concept called the task tamer strategy. It's all about stopping procrastination in its tracks by changing how we mentally frame huge projects. You know, when you look at a massive block of work labeled something like science project, your brain kind of just panics. But the very first step to tackling something that big is to actually start with the smallest, absolute easiest step you can think of. Like step 1, choose a topic. Step 2, maybe research just 3 little facts. Step 3, draw a quick diagram. You're basically taking this giant, terrifying monster of a project and slicing it up into tiny, super manageable pieces. It's a real game changer because by taking just one single baby step, you completely short-circuit that total paralysis of overwhelm.
And speaking of small steps, check this out. This is the 2-minute rule. It's this incredibly snappy, memorable hack from the text to keep your momentum going. The rule is super straightforward. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it right away instead of putting it off. The magic of this rule is that it completely prevents all those tiny, pesky little chores from snowballing into an absolute mountain of anxiety. You just knock them out immediately, and boom, they're totally cleared from both your physical and your mental to-do lists.
To really put this into perspective, let's look at Maya's story from the text. Maya had this massive book report due, and she was so intimidated by it that she couldn't even bring herself to start. She was totally frozen. That is until her mom stepped in and helped her break the whole thing down into tiny, bite-sized pieces. Doing this made the project way less scary, but more importantly, it let Maya actually see her progress step by step. And honestly, visually seeing your progress is absolutely crucial for keeping your motivation high.
Moving right along, Section 2, Organizing your study space, or as they call it, creating a neat nook. Now, just as we have to organize our tasks to stop mental overload, we absolutely have to organize our physical environments too. Think about it. A disorganized, tangled mess practically screams chaos at your brain. On the flip side, a calm, organized, neat nook creates an environment where your brain actually wants to focus and learn. The whole idea here is that an organized physical space directly translates to an organized mind. When your surroundings are calm, doing homework, or really any kind of deep work becomes so much easier and, honestly, a lot more enjoyable. So how do we actually achieve this? The source recommends some very specific organizing systems. We're talking labeled bins or folders for every single subject. Math, English, science, you name it. It's also highly recommended to go vertical with your storage, using things like those little magazine files. The whole goal here is to give every single stray paper and random supply a specific, clearly labeled home. So you might have one bin strictly dedicated to art supplies and another totally separate one just for science homework. No more digging around looking for a protractor. I absolutely love this real-life hack from the text about a student named David. Apparently, David's desk was just a total disaster zone of loose papers and wildly tangled wires. But he actually managed to conquer his physical space using a brilliantly simple everyday tool. A hair clip. Yeah, he used standard hair clips to gather up and organize all his charging cables. I mean, how clever is that? It just perfectly proves that you don't need to go out and buy expensive, fancy organizational gear to tame your space. You really just need a little bit of clever, outside-the-box problem solving. All right, on to our final pillar. Section 3, Mastering Active Listening, or the Architecture of Attentive Connection.
So just like clearing physical clutter creates mental space, clearing our mental clutter allows us to truly hear and connect with other people. And the absolute foundation of this kind of attentive connection is what the text calls genuine comprehension. Let's be real, often when we're in a conversation, especially a tense one, we aren't actually listening to the other person, right? We're just secretly preparing our own brilliant rebuttal in our heads. But genuine comprehension means completely focusing on the speaker. You literally have to quiet your own internal monologue to actually process what the other person is desperately trying to communicate to you. To actually pull off that level of comprehension, the source outlines some key active listening techniques. First up, actively ask clarifying questions. This really helps you figure out what the speaker's actual needs are. Second, and this is huge, you must allow them the necessary space to fully express themselves. No interrupting, just let them speak. These specific habits are exactly what builds real, lasting mutual trust. It ensures that the people in the relationship feel genuinely respected and truly understood. Which leads us to this really critical warning, straight from the source document. Postponing difficult discussions only exacerbates interpersonal tension over time. Look, it is incredibly tempting to just dodge a hard conversation. We've all done it. But avoiding it doesn't magically make the problem vanish. It actually makes the relationship friction significantly worse in the long run. If you really want to master your personal world, you have to face those tough conversations head on, using those active listening tools we just talked about. And that brings us to our final challenge for you today. What small step are you going to take right now? Are you going to take a giant, terrifying project and list out just the first 3 tiny steps? Are you going to grab a hair clip and finally organize that mess of charging cables on your desk? Or are you going to approach a conversation today and intentionally ask a clarifying question instead of just planning your next rebuttal? Remember, mastering your personal world isn't about doing everything all at once. It's about picking just one small piece of the architecture and building from there. So, which pillar are you going to conquer today?